Hello and welcome to another episode of the Diet Obsessed podcast. I am your host, Veronica Santarelli. I am a certified personal trainer, nutrition and weight loss coach, and this podcast is for those of us who are just obsessed with everything related to improving health and longevity, with a special emphasis on food, fitness, and diet culture. All right, let's get into the show. But first, if you want to support the show, there's a few ways you can do that. A couple of free ways. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can just click the subscribe button. That really helps us tremendously. Another free way is just to leave a rating or review wherever you listen to podcasts. That just means leave some stars, leave a comment, leave a review. That also really, really helps, and it doesn't cost a thing. I also do 2 premium content episodes every single month. So this is one of my free ones. Every other week I put out a podcast, but every other week one is free, like this one, and then one is a subscriber only episode. I do one regular subscription and then a VIP episode. The VIP you can get on Patreon by going to Patreon, downloading that app, and searching the Diet Obsessed podcast. That's extra personal, extra juicy stuff. And then I have a regular one where I talk about more controversial stuffs, mention some other things that I don't want to just out in the public era or arena, I should say. So those are 2 extras that you can get. So you have one every single week. And I appreciate your support. All right, everyone, let's get into it. So we'll start with a couple of my personal segments first, and then we'll jump into my podcast review a little bit later. So first, let's start with my mental health check-in. So first, we'll start with my mental health. Today's Saturday. I just got done training my clients, and I just got through my hell month. This was like the craziest month ever. I had a wedding in California. I had 2 of my best friends from Maine come to visit, and they literally just left on Thursday. So just a couple days ago, and they were in town for 8 days. So I was a little bit nervous about, having house guests for that long. But it really went so well. So these are 2 of my best friends one's from high school. So Kathy I met in high school. And then Mike, I've known Mike since like kindergarten. He lived not too far away from me in Augusta, Maine. And he's just like they're both so close. And it's like having family around. When you have family around, you don't feel the need to I don't know, it's just comfortable. And so they came into town last Wednesday. We cooked dinner for them because we knew they'd probably be exhausted when they got in, and they had a beautiful day. So they just kind of hung out by the pool and relaxed. I made them a little lunch and then a little dinner later. And it was just so nice. Thursday we went out to dinner, and I had to work Wednesday and Thursday, but then the weekend I took off because we went up to Antelope Canyon. And Antelope Canyon, if you haven't heard about it, they're slot canyons, which means you don't really notice them. They're not like those big majestic red rocks that you see in Sedona. But when you get down into the canyon, it's kind of hidden away. You have to know where it is. And this was all on Navajo land, which I didn't even know Navajo land had a different time zone, because the whole time my GPS, it was like 4.5 hours away from where I live in Scottsdale. And, it said like I was going to get there at like 9:15 the whole time. And then suddenly the time changed to be like 10. And I'm like, wait a minute, how did that just happen? And apparently Navajo land, they have a different time zone, which was really interesting. And you had to go through the slot canyons. You did have to have a tour, like a professional tour with one of the groups that does tours there. So I had looked up some really good ones and booked with one called Ken's Tours. And we did upper and lower. Now, lower, the week before, it rained heavily in Arizona. And my friend, actually, one of my friends was supposed to go to the lower part and it got flooded. So that's the really dangerous area where, people have died in those slot canyons. And when we went down, they are so just spiritual, majestic. The wind and the water has made these really narrow, just kind of cragged different canyons, and you slip through and you walk through, and you really have to watch your head because there's all these sections that kind of jut out of the sandstone, the way it's been formed and whipped around by the elements. And it's just so beautiful. It's hard to explain, um, but they are like reddish tone when you walk in, and just unbelievable, something that you've never experienced before in your life. So I did post some pictures on my Instagram, my personal Instagram, veronica.santarelli, and then I'm going to be posting more on the Diet Obsessed podcast. So I will post those sometimes this week. But I've been waiting for this experience. I've been wanting to go to these slot canyons and see. Now, summer is the peak because the sunbeams are coming right down. And it's just more dramatic. And I was a little bit worried that we'd be going at the wrong time or it wouldn't be as cool, but I did not need to worry about it. It was so cool. And our tour guides were great, especially the first one. He was very knowledgeable. He did a good job kind of explaining some of the way the canyons were formed and the different minerals and just how those shapes were formed. And yeah, it was everything I wanted it to be and more. It was unbelievable. So we did one of the slot canyons in the morning, then we went to Horseshoe Bend, which is it's basically this huge cliff, and in the middle it has this other huge rock formation, and there is like a horseshoe shaped, I think it's what is it? It's one of the rivers there that forms and it goes around kind of like a horseshoe. And part of the area has some fencing in it. Like probably the best part for pictures. There are some metal gates that you don't want to pass, but the sides of it are all open. So it was a little bit dangerous. I do remember last year, the year before, there was a family I had heard that went there and they had a 13-year-old that fell off the cliff. I cannot even imagine going to something like that with my family. But you see these little kids like running around. If I had a child, I would put that child on a leash if I was in that area because I'd just be so terrified. Um, and I was like, everyone be careful. I'm like, let's not ruin our vacation here by somebody falling and getting hurt. But everybody was fine. So we did that. And then we did the second one. We went and had some food and some drinks in between. And we rented an Airbnb that was very, very nice. So, and we just bonded. It was just a really good bonding time with my friends and my partner, and they all got along really, really well. And it was just nice to reconnect with them and actually have them around for days. Now, after that, Mike and Kathy actually had rented a car and they took off to the Grand Canyon. So they went to the Grand Canyon on Sunday while Chad and I went back to Scottsdale, and we had our Sunday to ourselves and then most of Monday because um, Kathy and Mike ended up they just went on a different trek. They went to see Williams and a couple other parts. They stopped in Sedona and then they came back. And so So they had a really good time, and it was kind of perfect. It was that little break from them where they took like a night away. It was kind of perfectly broke up their trip into two different like little parts of the week. So I think that also just helped so that it just the week went so smoothly. And then they did a little Tucson tour of a national park down there. This past Wednesday was Mike's birthday. So we did some cocktails and appetizers out at some of the local hot spots around Scottsdale, Old Town. And then we went to drag bingo, which was really fun. I've never done drag bingo before, and it was hilarious and a really good time. And I played pickleball for the first time. So my friend Mike is an avid pickleball player. And I didn't realize this, but right across the street where I train, there's a bunch of pickleball courts that people can just play, and there's a ton of them. And we went really early in the morning. I think we went at like 7 in the morning one day before I had to work. And he taught me some of the rules. I'd never played pickleball before. So it was fun. We played these two guys and got our asses kicked. But yeah, they kept hitting it to me because I was obviously the weak player on our team. But it was fun. I definitely want to do it again, and I think I could get really good at it if I played a lot. So it was just a great week. They had beautiful weather. One of the things that I did think about as I was going down into these slot canyons is, because I had made this commitment to myself this year that every trip I take now, I want there to be some element of nature, some active way that we experience nature. And so, and I've stuck with that. In Quebec, we went across the zip lining across the waterfall, and then we did our trip to Banff, and then this. And so, and I was like, sorry, the hair on my face. When you're some of these slot canyons they're very tight, and you have to go down these incredibly narrow ladders. I mean, it's almost vertical. And it just made me think about how this is a great time to be doing something like this. We're young, we're healthy, and it's really a privilege to be able to be healthy and fit, to be able to maneuver through these slot canyons, because there's some people that physically would not be able to do that. And so I did have that thought of, I'm glad I'm in good shape. I'm glad I'm healthy. I'm glad I'm strong. I'm glad I'm fit and can easily move into these canyons and maneuver around. And there are some people that probably have a lot of challenges with that. So again, just made me feel blessed and grateful for my health, for my mobility, and a strong reminder to stay that way, right? But the other piece that I was nervous about was just, my social battery can be drained very quickly. And definitely, I don't think I'm going to do anything this weekend. I really just need to recoup and recover. I may do something later today, but I really don't want to. I just want to relax. I really do. And just like enjoy my time alone. Where I don't have to entertain, it's just nice. And again, it wasn't like I felt this obligation, but I did want them to have a good time. And I ended up working from my home office the day that they left. So that was nice because I just got to, I was working all day, but during my breaks, I got to go out and sit in the sun with them and chit chat and just really enjoy their last day instead of working from the office and barely seeing them their last day. So I'm glad that I did that. So my mental health this week is really good. Again, coming off that week, coming off this epic nature experience, I feel very recharged for this next month. I'll be getting a new schedule next month. And I did want to talk about somebody else that is probably struggling with their mental health right now, and that is the Proctor family. Now, for those of you that have are just listening to me, I have done a couple of reviews on the Karen Reed trial, which happened in Massachusetts. And the trooper that was at the center of all this, who was this, he ended up getting fired from the Massachusetts Police Department or State Trooper Department. And he deserved it, right? Like this seeing this guy's testimony is what really reeled me into this case, because he was he was texting very inappropriate things to his friends about a case and calling her the C word, making fun of her medical condition, saying she had no ass. I mean, you name it. He way crossed the line. And so he did appeal. So he was fired, and now he was appealing and trying to get his job back. And I'm like, and it is hard. It is hard for a police officer to lose their job because they have this whole union that protects them. And really, police officers, for the most part, they really want to protect their own. They don't want to have to fire someone. And so his violations were so egregious, they couldn't ignore them. They couldn't turn their back on the whole situation that happened and the evidence they had against him. But of course, he's going to try to appeal it, right? So with that, everything gets drugged back up. And so just this week, he ended up rescinding his appeal. He's just like, oh, forget about it. I'm no longer going to try to get my job back. And what happened is he didn't think that he had anything else left on his phone, but when they dug and did an extraction, he dug probably, I think it was like over 100,000 text messages, pictures, videos, all the way back to 2013. And based on the text messages that we've seen from the Karen Reed trial, what I am hypothesizing they are going to find from this extraction, I think they are going to find that texts that he went through, people that he was investigating, women. This is what I'm hypothesizing. This is all, again, just my personal opinion. This is not fact. This is what I believe I'm thinking they're going to find. I think they're going to find naked pictures from, women that were arrested, that he had access to their phone. I guarantee he took screenshots of those pictures and sent them to his friends. Because one of the things that he said to his friends when he was going through Karen Reed's phone, no nudes yet. No nudes yet. Which means, okay, so his friends have an expectation that he's potentially going to send them nudes of women that he's investigating. I think there's going to be that. I guarantee there's more evidence of people that he's done investigations with, that he's disclosed personal or just information about the case when he shouldn't have. Probably sharing videos of evidence or body cameras, but racist things. I mean, you name it, I guarantee it's on that phone. And I do think that, and a lot of bloggers that are following this that I'm watching on YouTube, I think that he's probably going to face some sort of legal repercussions because of this. I think he actually broke the law many times in what he did with his personal device, and now it's going to be exposed. So Karen Reed will most likely sue him, and most likely she's going to be able to pull some of that evidence from his phone and bring it to support her case. And so now he deserves all of this, right? He is now unemployed, has no way to support his family. He has a wife, he has children, And his life has been completely ruined by this. And, one of I was watching this video, and it was a video where his wife was supporting him, and she's almost in tears, and she's talking about how it's crazy that she's seeing her kids. They have no idea that their parents' lives are crumbling. And, they're just having fun as kids. I'm sure the kids pick up on something, right? Because I'm sure dad's depressed, mom is stressed. They have no idea how they're going to support themselves now. They've lost pension, this future that they thought they had, this, because he also got a lot of overtime and probably was very well paid. And they thought they had this secure future. Now they don't. And again, I do feel bad for his family because they didn't do this, right? They didn't know what a piece of shit. She didn't know what a piece of shit she was marrying. And now she has to deal with it. I mean, your life can be ruined by who you tie yourself to and what they choose to do. Yeah. I mean, even just, your partner's mental health. Some people just struggle. People go through so much, and you're going to go through that with your partner. So I can't imagine the torture, because this is going to drag on for years. There's going to be lawsuit after lawsuit. There's all these other murder cases that are going to get affected by this extraction. I mean, and the issue, Karen Reed is innocent. She's now going through a civil trial, but there's a lot of really terrible people on trial now that did commit murder, that do belong behind bars. And because this police officer was involved, so that's its own separate issue. But just because this is a mental health segment, and I do get very fascinated by the mental health of people going through lawsuits. I went through my lawsuit and thankfully won. But for that year and a half, I was a disaster. And it's nothing like what these people are going through. So it's always a reminder to follow the law, be safe, do right by people. And so you don't have to deal with stuff like this. Oh my God. Anyway, that is my mental health segment of the week. I hope all of you are having a great mental health week yourselves. All right, let's get into a diet culture media moment. Now, I do have a few here. So I was scrolling on Instagram the other day, and I came across this image of Vogue's crazy crash diet from the 1970s. So back in the 1970s, Vogue magazine published one of the most shocking crash diets of all time, now infamous as the wine and eggs diet. So this 3-day slimming plan suggested breakfast should be a hard-boiled egg, a glass of white wine, and black coffee. Lunch was 2 eggs, 2 glasses of wine, more coffee. Dinner was 5 ounces of steak, the rest of the bottle, and more coffee. And the promise, you would lose 5 pounds in 3 days. And so this medically reckless fad that nutritionists today call one of the worst diets ever printed, high in alcohol, dangerously low in nutrients, and definitely not Vogue approved anymore. You imagine, it's like crazy what used to be. Diet culture has been going on for a very, very long time, especially for women. And this was at Explain. That's the Instagram page I got this from. And so, yeah, you see the slides of the different day of dieting. I mean, look, high protein, duh. There are a lot of nutrients in eggs and steak, but the wine, we know we don't need the wine. The black coffee, obviously, to take away some of the appetite. But yeah, that's not enough. That's obviously not healthy. But I just think it's so funny to look back and think, wow, I think we've come far. I don't know. Our society is still messed up. But anyway, I was also listening to a podcast, Jeff Lewis's podcast, and he had Andy Cohen on, and he wanted to. So Andy Cohen recently acknowledged that he is on GLP-1s. And when he talks about it, he talks about that he microdoses it. And so Jeff had to point out that he was like, why do you have to say you're microdosing it? He's like, that's what everybody does. Everybody that uses these basically microdoses it. He's like, you're just trying not to sound as fat. And so he just wanted to call Andy out. And Jeff likes to put people on the spot and be like, why are you trying to like make it sound better than it is? So, and the Jeff Lewis show is steeped in diet culture. You want to rewind the clock and go back to the olden days of diet culture and hear some of the talk. This is the show for you. And then finally, this was all over the news this week that Jelly Roll lost 200 pounds. And if you go to his Instagram, you're seeing that he's like, oh, I can fit into Louis Vuitton now. He's like, uh-oh, for my bank account. Um, but the girls on the toast were talking about it. They were talking about how, you know, there's nothing negative around the Jelly Roll weight loss, and how if it was a woman, there'd be all this controversy, you know, people supporting it, people saying that it's unhealthy, people tearing apart how they got there. And she's like, all the rhetoric around Jelly Roll is just positive. And Claudia was saying that, you know, because Claudia has lost, you know, she's fluctuated, you know, she did the GLP-1s, lost, I don't know how much she lost, definitely close to 100 pounds. And she's just like, people don't understand how good you feel when you do have this radical health journey. And she's like, you know, health at every size, body neutrality. She's like, but this is what I'm choosing to do. And Claudia is very much, you know, they're about a decade younger than me, even probably even more than a decade younger than me. They're definitely millennials, and you know, they are just as immersed in diet culture as my generation. So it doesn't end. I mean, this is our society. That's why I like to talk about it. Obviously, it's not as, you know, you're not supposed to comment on people's bodies anymore, but this is a safe space for that. So we do comment on it. And how could you not? I mean, it's if somebody loses 200 pounds, it's something that people, like, their lives have changed. They're fitting into new clothes. Their blood work is going to look different. Their you know, how they feel is going to be different. And Claudia has been in both sides of that. You know, she just had a baby. She has gained a lot of weight back, and she doesn't like it. She's very vocal about that, but she's also not putting a lot of pressure on herself. She's letting herself take her time and enjoy motherhood and breastfeed, and she's just not even thinking about going there yet. You can tell that someday she is going to be focused on that. But she just liked to point out the juxtaposition of how women are treated when they've had a dramatic weight loss and how men are treated. And they did mention how, you know, Jelly Roll used to have a lot of drug addiction. Some people end up replacing one addiction for another, and food may have been that replacement for drugs and alcohol. And, you know, now if he did suffer from that, you know, drugs and alcohol addiction and turned to food, and now is on, probably, I'm guessing he used the GLP-1s. I don't think he's talked about that. But those GLP-1s, for some people, they're also supposed to help with addiction. So maybe that is what is going to be kind of the silver bullet for him, right? But with both food and with other substances. So congratulations, Jelly Roll. You look amazing. I'm sure you feel amazing. And that is my diet culture media moment of the week. All right. let's get into a longevity lifestyle. Now, I've been hearing, this is going to be very short because I really don't have a lot to go on here, but not everybody, some people have talked about how they believe that Taylor Swift has had some plastic surgery. And I would like to know what she's done, what the before and after is. I keep looking it up. I don't know. I mean, she looks beautiful. And she's also getting a little older. And, as you get a little older, especially like she's in her mid 30s now, you start to develop you start to lose some of the baby fat. You develop, sharper cheekbones. And so it's hard to tell, like, is it just getting a little older, maybe losing some of that facial fat? She's working out a lot. Is it a little bit of rhinoplasty, a little bit of some sort of either eyebrow lift? I don't know. She looks amazing. I don't blame her for wanting to get a couple little tiny tweaks here and there. I certainly, if I'd had her money, I'd probably look like the cat lady. Who knows what would happen with me? But I'd like to think that I would do natural, moderate things that would just make me look like an even better version of myself. Again, some people are very against doing anything. I am like, to each your own, do what makes you happy. I certainly am somebody that will be having an upper bleph and probably a lower bleph at some point soon. And I don't know. I mean, she looks great. So does anybody else out there, do you have any hypotheses about this? Have you seen a good before and after? What are you thinking? I think it had to do with, I think maybe a little bit of rhinoplasty, maybe a little bit of something with the eyes, maybe a little something with the jaw. I don't know. That's what I need. A little something. Anyway. That is my longevity lifestyle segment of the week. All right, let's get into my science of strength segment. Now, again, this is also going to be very quick. I just had to mention this. Teddi Mellencamp is cancer-free, people. So for those of you that don't know who she is, Teddi Mellencamp, the son of John Cougar Mellencamp, right? That's his name. She was a Real Housewife on Beverly Hills, Real Housewife of Beverly Hills episode character on that show. And she had developed a very, very severe case of melanoma to the point where it spread to her lymph nodes. They found multiple tumors in her brain. I mean, to me, this sounded like it was not going to be something she could recover from. And lo and behold, she did immunotherapy. She had a lot of surgeries to remove a lot of her skin where it was spreading. I think she had she definitely had brain surgery to remove her brain tumors. So she's been through so much. And she's recently reported that she is cancer-free. Now, the one thing I want to talk about because I'm putting this under my science of strength segment, because I do think that how healthy and strong, how well she took care of her body prior to that. Now, she didn't take care of her skin, right? She obviously went out in the sun with no sun protection. She didn't get checked in at the doctor enough, right? So those are obviously not healthy habits. But what I'm talking about is the fact that she worked out constantly, the fact that she had a lot of muscle built. And that matters, people. That matters. I read that research study that's on my website about how people are, exponentially more likely to survive cancer and a resurgence of cancer if they are physically fit and physically active. She's someone that even during her treatment, you would see her, she's like, my doctor gave me the go-ahead that if I'm feeling okay, I can get on this treadmill. And she would work out even when she was going through cancer treatment. So, and I would imagine that the nutrients and what she put into her body food wise was also extremely clean and healthy, um, nutrient dense, full of good vitamins, nutrients, and minerals. She did that before. I would guess that she did it. She hasn't talked about what she ate during her cancer treatment, but at least from what I've seen. But I would imagine that she was doing everything that she could to recover. And she did. So, congratulations, Teddy Mellencamp. We are so thrilled for you. And way to beat cancer. I'm sure it's going to be this thing that she has to, constantly go back for checkups. But I'm really, really, really happy for her and, was expecting the worst. And I'm so happy to see that she's come out the other side. So that is my Science of Strength segment of the week. All right, let's get into my healthy habits of the weeks. Well, this week was a little off, right? This past week or two, because I've had guests in town and I have worked out some, but not a ton. I have not been working out every single day. I have taken my dog out for some walks, but we set up one of the bedrooms in our gym. So we had converted one of our bedrooms into a home gym, and then we put an air mattress in there for one of our guests. And so I didn't have my home gym, and sometimes I don't have time to work out at the personal training gym where I train people, and just because I have to go to my other job. But we were very active, right? We did a lot of hiking while they were in town, and I did a little bit of rebounding one day. And I did my superfood smoothie a few days. I didn't do it every single day, but I did do it most days. So I did stay consistent with that. I did have, some days where I stuck to pretty regimented things but only a couple of the days would I have like a salad for lunch and then, maybe like a taco salad or something like that at night. But we were definitely eating a lot more indulgently this week. So they did end up getting Flower Child one day, which I haven't had for a while just because I've been trying to cook at home more. So that was really good. Today I just had the rest of this Mother Earth bowl that they left behind, which was the miso sweet potatoes with some of the farro, some of the spinach, and there was a little bit of chicken in there. Oh, so good. I haven't had that for a while. A little bit of avocado. So good. They got some of the gluten-free mac and cheese, and then the roasted broccoli with that little bit of lemon and Parmesan on it. So that was really good. That's the majority of it because I was not trying to be, okay, I'm gonna have perfect whole food weeks. And I was just kind of going with the flow. It didn't really gain a lot of weight because I also I wasn't eating bored at night. I just didn't have a lot of time to eat and overeat. And we were on the go quite a bit. So the days were long. And so that's good. So as much as I don't know, I think when you're somebody that has a lot of habits built and then you're thrown off of your routine a little bit, you always just feel a little bit off. But I had enough of my routine where I'm feeling okay, and I did keep some of the good things. So I'm not feeling completely disgusting. I did drink a lot more than I have in a while, which I mean, I like to drink, but it's obviously not the healthiest thing. And some of the nights we really overdid it. I'll probably talk a little bit more about that on my VIP episode in November because I do have a couple stories to share that aren't fit for the public. but we'll get to those in November. But yeah, so those were my healthy habits of the week. I hope all of you have had some great healthy habits this week yourselves. All right, and let's get into my tasty treats of the week. So, yes, so I did definitely do quite a bit of indulging. I wanted to take them to some of my favorite restaurants, but they were so busy and all over the place. And the nights that I had time and wanted to take them certain places, it just didn't work out. So the first night they were here, we cooked a big dinner. I made a delicious garlic bread on ciabatta. I made my salad with that homemade dressing that I love. That dressing had the red wine vinegar and olive oil and Dijon mustard and garlic, lemon juice. Um, it's the best dressing ever. So I made a nice big salad. We had some garlic bread, and then Chad made his yummy, kind of like a pasta, sausage pasta dish. So that was really yummy for the first night. The second night, we took them to Loco Patron, which I love. Loco Patron is a local Mexican restaurant. They have really good food, really, really good Mexican food. The salsa is the best. I've gone and bought pints of this salsa for parties that I've had. It's so delicious. I really like a salsa that doesn't have big chunks of tomato. I like a salsa that's really chopped up well. And when you scoop it, it has not chunks of tomato, but almost like crushed or like kind of like a blended tomato. It's hard to explain. It almost looks like a slush, like a tomato slush when you pick it up. Just that, and very, very small, but not mushy, but just kind of like highly, highly pulverized. And I don't know, this is the best salsa ever. So I got some crunchy tacos, crunchy shredded chicken tacos. So good. I had some sangria, we had a couple drinks, so enjoyed that. So that wasn't too bad. And again, I wasn't eating dessert at night. We would just kind of go to bed. Usually when I drink, I don't want dessert on top of that. So the next day was Friday, and that was the day that we drove up to Page to go to Antelope Canyon. And Kathy and Mike had left early to go to Sedona and Flagstaff and, just leave early. I had to leave after work. And the one of the best times I think to get fast food is when you're on a road trip. And it's just easier when I kind of allow myself to indulge in like McDonald's or Burger King, that just the shit food, but it's also like, I don't know, it just feels right for, a road trip. So we ended up stopping. I was like McDonald's or Burger King. They were off the road, off the highway at this specific place because I had to use the restroom. And I decided to go to Burger King because I'm like, I really want a flame broiled burger. And in my recollection, now I don't know if Burger King has changed the way that it makes its burgers or the size or this burger was disgusting. Okay. It was kind of cold. It was hard. It did not taste flame broiled. The bun was it just wasn't moist. It was kind of stale. And I got a side of onion rings with them. The onion rings tasted like the Trader Joe's, like it had the Trader Joe's seasoning on them. Not good. Definitely not worth whatever that trip. Like if I'm going to eat fast food, I want it to taste good. Hello. And I really knew I was starving at that point. I was so hungry. When you eat something when you're starving and it does not taste good, you know that's bad because most things taste good if you're starving. So that was disappointing. It was a waste of calories because I did not want to waste fast food indulging on that specific meal. So not happy. Did I eat it? Yes, I ate it. Okay, I was hungry. Then let's see. And when we went out for those crispy tacos, I was able to order two sides with it. So and I didn't really like a lot of the side options. So I got the Spanish rice and then I got the refried beans. And I actually I gave the refried beans to my friend and I kind of regret it. I think just a little tiny taste of that fried bean on that taco would have been perfection. I think it just would have added that extra little element. I'm not a huge refried bean person, and I like there was enough crunchiness with the taco shell and the chips and salsa I had to put that little bit of mushy, smooth, kind of creamy refried bean on there. If I'm eating a street taco that just has the flour tortilla, it's not as good. I need the crunch of that crunchy shell. I love a fried, crispy tortilla. Yeah, so good. Taco shell. So I just had to mention that because it was in my notes. Anyway, back to Paige. So we go to Paige and we had planned on going to this Grand Canyon brewery place. Chad has to go to his breweries. So Kathy and I decided to split our meals. She wanted a calzone, which calzones always sound good to me, but I really don't like a calzone. I'm just not into a calzone. I don't know why. I love pizza, but calzones, not a huge fan. I think it's because when you do end up biting into the calzone, it's kind of mushy inside. Like the sauce and the cheese makes the inside of that crust soggy, right? Am I crazy or what? But anyway, and then I got a bison burger because I like a lean burger. And we split that. I gave her half of that, some of my fries. She gave me half of her calzone. I ate the whole half a burger with some of the fries and took a bite of the calzone. And then we brought the rest home. And I did have a prickly pear cocktail that was not good. It was pretty, I don't know, there was like a weird smoky taste to it, and it was vodka. Should not have been smoky. It almost had like a mezcal smokiness, which I don't like mezcal. I don't like smokiness in my food or my beverages. And so that was not good. I drank it. I still drank it. Let's see. And then, so when we went out to dinner that night, I was pretty, wasted. I definitely had quite a few cocktails by then. And we end up going to this place that didn't have a lot of options. They did have some fried pickles, so we did order the fried pickles. Now they were spears, which usually I don't love the spears. These were actually pretty good. And then I got chicken tenders and more onion rings. Now the chicken tenders I got were fried to perfection. They were nice and crispy, and I only ended up eating like one of them, and then I took the rest home, and they were a very nice midnight snack for me. And then so that was, we just ate crappy food. We didn't do any nice dinners out. There weren't really any nice places anyway, but we were also not in great shape. I mean, we were partying and drinking pretty heavily, so I don't know. Sometimes you just want greasy crap food when you're drinking like that. At least I do. Super healthy. But my second foodie fail, okay. So we wake up Sunday, hungover, not feeling too bad, but I'm like, okay, I've got a 4.5 hour ride ahead of me. I'm gonna treat myself to some donuts. I'm like, I deserve a donut because I'm gonna drive. I just drove 4.5 hours up here on Friday. Got to drive 4.5 hours back. I'm gonna enjoy this ride. So we found this local donut shop, and I'm like, okay. Let me get one of these. Let me get one of these. Let me get one of these. Let me get a breakfast burrito with chorizo. And now it is hard to mess up a donut. Okay. These donuts were not good. They were dense. They were, I don't even know how to describe them. Have you ever had a donut that looks like the exterior of the donut is this, it almost looks like it's trapped some of the oil in it, and it has just a oily, kind of gritty, not moist. It's like a hard texture. So bad. Now, did I eat the icing off a couple of them? Yes. Okay. I was like, I just spent $30 on these donuts and this breakfast burrito. The breakfast burrito was okay. It was okay. Did it need some hot sauce? Yes. Did I want to really eat it in the car? Was it going everywhere? Yes. I ate half of it. But I was very, very, very disappointed with this breakfast burrito, with the donuts. I basically threw the majority of the donuts away. And when I got back, I was like, I still have I need my sugar fix today. It's Sunday. So I go to the dollar store and I get a few bags of Haribo candy. I got myself some of those raspberry and blackberries that I'm obsessed with, that probably have cancer-causing dyes in them, if we're being honest. And but I only did one bag. Only did one bag of those. Everything in moderation. And then I did some Sour Patch strawberries. Now those were good. Okay, those were good. So I made it up at the dollar store. I got a couple bags of what were they? Cape Cod, those kettle, not sour cream and onion, but salt and vinegar chips. So again, another crap day of just eating junk and trying to catch up on sleep and recover. Well, that was that. Then, and then again, well, what I realized, because I had wanted to bring them to the last night, it was Mike's birthday. And I'd wanted to bring them to this Thai restaurant, but I did kind of find out that Kathy's not a huge fan of Thai food and spice, so that would have been a bad idea. I wanted to bring them to Sophia's. We ended up going to Old Town, and so we went to this place called AZ88 that has incredible martinis. So we ended up I got a strawberry burst or something like that. Starburst. That was really good martini. Kathy ended up getting this French martini that was so good. It tasted like Crystal Light. It was so good. And then we just split this flatbread that was disgusting. It was terrible. We got some French fries that were good. I mean, again, you can mess up French fries. These were pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of a waffle fry. These were waffle fries, but they didn't really have that many choices. And then we got a shrimp cocktail, so that was a good choice. And gave us a little bit of protein and something a little bit healthier. So that gave us a little bit of a coating in our stomach. And then we went to the drag bar. I did have a very embarrassing moment in the drag bar because I was trying to tell the host that it was Mike's birthday, and I ended up running into the very nice girl who was carrying drinks, and oh my God, I thought her whole tray was going to go down. It was just one that it was a can, so it didn't shatter. It was very embarrassing. I recovered. Anyway, those were my tasty treats of the week and a foodie fail, a couple foodie fails in there. I hope all of you have had some delicious, tasty treats this week yourselves. Right, let's get into my podcast review. So I was scrolling through a lot of the shows that I listened to, and I came across the one that's called Seems Like Diet Culture, with it's Mallory Page. Page. Let me see. Yeah, Mallory Page. She's a registered dietitian. She's very anti-diet culture. And she wanted to do a review on the recent Victoria's Secret fashion show. So Victoria's Secret has brought the fashion show back. Now, this show, my show, the Diet Obsessed podcast, has spanned, I kind of started this. It started back in 2021, where we were at the height of body neutrality, body positivity, health at every size. There was a lot of diversity. The Black Lives Matter movement was happening. It was just a lot of marginalized people that were suddenly being shown, highlighted, being celebrated, different body sizes on the runway. And it was, and a lot of people that were the traditional, you know, personal trainers, you know, sort of fell into that like diet culture mentality. They were shunned and put to the side. And I learned so much through this whole movement about fat phobia and my own internal biases and privilege. And look, I would say that I'm fascinated by everything involved in this conversation, and I just like to talk about it. So I probably fall somewhere in the middle, slightly more the diet culture side, because I am a personal trainer. I do try to manage my weight. And I think that there has to be a space for people that do want to get healthy, go on a fitness journey, lose weight, get fit, whatever their goals might be for self-improvement, whatever that looks like to people, to anyone out there. Everyone has different goals, because I also understand how dangerous this topic can be for the wrong people, right? That some people get very triggered, and eating disorders and things like that, which again, if I always say, if this type of conversation triggers you, shut this episode off, right? Because I think we all we're responsible for our own content stream and what we watch. And I probably shouldn't watch so many serial killer things and murder stuff. I do. Anyway, so now I don't even think I was aware that this show was really happening, because I don't follow a lot of influencers that were in this show, were talking about this show. But Girl with No Job, Claudia Oshry from The Toast, I love their podcast. She brought it up. She started talking about it. And it's funny because, again, she right now is in a larger body size because she just had a baby. She is someone that, and I talked about her earlier, she's lost probably over 100 pounds. I don't know exactly how much, but she's lost a lot of weight on the GLP-1s. And she's someone that vocally wants to get back down to a smaller body size. She has this interesting perspective, because some people that some people are very threatened by the images, shown through, especially old school Victoria's Secret, right? The traditional supermodel look, extremely tall, extremely thin, and not a lot of people can be models. Not a lot of people are born genetically like that, right? And that's why it was, being a model, a professional model, not everyone could in the past do that. And now there are a lot more body types that are celebrated. Now it's more about, how many followers do you have? Are you popular on social media? Are you the daughter or child of a celebrity? Because a lot of those kids are now on the runway modeling. And that, I think, really has to do with the fact that some of these brands just want to sell their shit. And they're like, oh, well, this girl has 1 million followers. Let's get her on the runway that she can promote it to her 1 million followers. And that really has become across the board. If you want to sell a book, if you want to be a published author and get actually a professional publishing, you have to have a following, because they want to know that they're going to get their money back if they support you. And they want to know you have a network to promote things to. So I think just our culture has shifted where it is about a lot about social media, a lot about followers. And what, in the past, Victoria's Secret was shunned for many reasons, right? So they were tied to Jeffrey Epstein. There was, and obviously during the body positivity movement, that image was no longer popular at that point, and they ended up shutting that show down for many years. It used to be so coveted and it's so popular, and now they brought it back. Now, so Claudia was talking about how she liked it when it was more exclusive like that. She liked it when not everyone can be up there on the walkway. And she's, and it's interesting because Claudia is around the same age as Mallory Page, who hosts this show, because Mallory had the exact opposite feeling. Mallory, it seemed, did not like that they were bringing back the old school supermodel. And and again, Mallory is also fair in that she's not saying, oh, there is no place for these people anymore. But Claudia liked the exclusivity. She's like, no, bitch, that's what a model's supposed to be. And Claudia just unapologetically speaks her truth, right? This is her strong opinion. She's going to say it no matter what people think of it, and I respect that. I really do. But Mallory's point is, why is Victoria's Secret still glorifying 6 foot tall models that weigh 110 pounds? And so, and what Mallory wanted to talk about was some of the controversy, right? And so there were people like, social media is filled with polarizing opinions. Some people thought that, right? Like, why is this coming back? Why are we putting this person that, nobody can look like this? This is going to cause so many people in our audience to, feel bad about themselves. One of the comments that was made was, these 6 foot models that weigh 110 pounds look sick and frail. And then some people were complaining that there were Nepo babies. Like there's Iris Law, the daughter of Jude Law and Sadie Frost. So the Nepo baby thing was also a little bit of a debate. Somebody commented, whoever's recruiting models for the show needs to be let go. I don't need to see socially relevant people on the runway. Victoria's Secret has always been supermodels, not randos. So kind of making fun of how, some of the people that were on there were professional athletes, people that were professional, volleyball players or basketball players. So some of the rhetoric online was that Victoria's Secret in this comeback show was trying to be everything at once, right? Do that throwback to where they used to be, where they did celebrate these super tall models, but then also bringing in some diversity, with different types of athletes, right? Now, Mallory has done an episode about this in the past. I did do a review when she brought it back, when she did it in the past. And she kind of talked about how Victoria's Secret was very popular when she was growing up. And she comes from the perspective that her and her friends never felt worse about themselves, about their bodies, about the way they looked than before this show was about to air, because it would be talked about. All the guys would be super excited. Back when Mallory was in school, the biggest compliment that could be given was, oh, you look like an angel. You look like a Victoria's Secret angel. And what Mallory, her point is that creating a specific type of beauty standard makes people try to strive for that. And she saw that it would create fights between couples because, if the guy wanted to watch it and have it as a screensaver, and the girl's like, well, why do you need to see that? So she's coming from the perspective of, seeing women that would get threatened by those women and that comes from, an insecure place, right? Comparing yourself, feeling like you're with someone that's going to covet that and think less of you. Claudia doesn't come from that same thought process, right? Claudia comes from just a more confident and self, I guess, internally satisfied place, right? I think that if you judge yourself by only the exterior, if your self-worth is coming just from external compliments, then you are more subject to being affected by these types of images. Claudia, I think, is a very confident person. I think she is very aware of the gifts that she brings to the world, and she's very secure with herself. And I can see how that's a great, if you have that internal confidence, if you are that person, wonderful. Not everyone's like that. There are some people that are going to get highly triggered by images like this. So Mallory just talks about how we've gone through the rise and the fall of the body positivity and neutrality brands, being more inclusive in the past and now regressing. She sees now that this consumer drive is getting back into being more aspirational, and she believes it's based around this current political climate we have in America. Right now, she feels that brands are getting back to the traditional, very tall, very thin, objectively beautiful, mainly white, Eurocentric women with very little diversity. She talked about how Barbara Palvin was considered plus size in the past. And actually Claudia brought that up too. She's like, remember when they tried to pretend that Barbara Palvin was plus size and really she's just like a normal size? They both brought it up and they're actually both making fun of how she was considered plus size. If you look her up, she's a very, very thin woman. But then Mallory talked about how these traditional models, have now spoken out about what they had to do to attain and maintain those bodies. Barbara Palvin talked about how she would stress about what she ate. Certain models talked about how they created addictions to drugs to stay thin. They had to go through extreme dieting, excessive exercise. They passed out sometimes because of the extreme ways and methods they took to look a certain way or maintain a certain size. But people out there are commenting that these are the OG naturally beautiful women, prime beauty, and that they worked hard to get there, that there's a certain morality built around the way they look. And now she's saying this new show that people are saying that they're bringing a different type of person and putting them on the runway and not just that traditional angel from the past. And again, Mallory sees a lot of problematic layers with this. When we think of peak Victoria's Secret, there was a lot of racism, fat phobia, lack of diversity. And she's like, we're now seeing a resurgence of those narrow views about health and body size and age, diversity, how we look at people with disabilities. And again, talking about how it's tied to the political climate in the US, which I can see her point here, right? I don't know if any of you saw the backlash our Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, the speech that he gave, he had called this meeting, and there were a ton of established generals and high-ranking military officers in the audience, and how he essentially made this speech about how the look of our military is problematic, how there's too many fat military members. And I saw a review that Sammy did from Betches, and the way that she phrased it is that Pete Hegseth is basically shaming our military with the same types of beauty standards that have been put on women our whole lives. That the way we looking fit, looking the part, is much more important than what we internally bring, like our skill sets, our talent, our brains, our intelligence. It's more about the importance of how we look, being able to do X amount of push-ups. And oh my God, there was so much backlash to this. And I did see another high-ranking military professional that spoke out against this, and really shamed Pete Hegseth and put him in his place about this speech. And I just think it is fascinating, the focus on appearance that is very popular in this administration. Trump likes to have attractive, good-looking people in his cabinet, and he's very superficial. He just is. And so I do see what Mallory's saying about this, that the American political climate is having an effect on beauty standards and what companies are putting out there, and this retraction of DEI policies. And there are racist elements in there. I mean, some people may not see them. This is my opinion. So I do see what Mallory's saying with that. Mallory talked about how people were complaining about Angel Reese, that she didn't fit the beauty needed here. And she's a professional basketball player and muscular and gorgeous. And she's like, is it really about her? Does she really not fit that Victoria's Secret standard? Or is it all these other belief systems that you're influenced by? Like, why are people saying this? And it is true. Like, we are conditioned in our society to think certain things are acceptable. Certain beauty standards are what we chase. It's what we see. And that is the reason that it is important for people to see themselves, to see. And I do think that that's why diversity is important. People need to see that, oh, she can do it. I can do it. I could be there one day. Mallory highlighted that people are saying that they want to see the aspirational person up there. But why would that be aspirational to the majority of America, when no matter how you eat or how you work out or what you do, you're not going to look like that? It's impossible. That is based on genetics and a way someone's born, not by how they move their body. So it's just the idea that aspirational is what people want to see, when it's impossible to aspire to a certain beauty standard in some ways. So, like, you can't make yourself 6 foot tall, right? You can't make yourself 5'10". Now, obviously, there's a lot you can do with some of the other modern technology we have, but is that where you want to be putting your time and energy? Mallory thinks it's a complete waste of time to be putting a ton of thought, effort, energy, resources into appearance, into beauty standards. And that is her strong opinion. I like a balance, right? I want to focus on important things in my life, like getting my master's degree at some point, and achieving certain things in my career. And I want to get blepharoplasty, right? So I know I'm influenced by certain beauty standards too. And I also, she talked about like anti-ageism, and I'm certainly someone that does take steps to appear younger, to stay younger looking. And again, I've done episodes on, is that holding women back? Is it not? Again, everybody can have their strong opinion. I don't feel like it's holding me back. But Mallory might think very differently. She thinks it's amazing how we brainwash ourselves into thinking that this is the only body type that we should see. And she's like, I'm not saying that all these like Candace Swanepoel and Adriana Lima shouldn't be on the runway. She's like, there are positive things from bringing back those women that have been there all these years. She's like, it just gets back to this old limited view of beauty standards. And she's like, and there are ways to meet consumer demand without compromising morality. She thinks that the thinness obsession can completely take over your thoughts and values and make you a shell of who you used to be. She thinks that there's a lot of people absorbing negative messages from influencers on this topic, and she just wants to call this behavior out. And I think she's right. There are certain people that should not have this in their content streams because they will become obsessed with it in an unhealthy way. And that's never a good thing. She thinks that her message is unpopular. That she thinks that her desire to have more diverse beauty standards is just not popular. She thinks it's powerful to see people of different shades, colors, and body sizes walking on the runway. And I think that that's the good thing about social media. Now, I don't know. Do we have to have everybody on a runway? I think social media has done a good job of people can see different types of people out there, right? Sometimes the most authentic, raw, real, people that are putting themselves out there are the ones that are getting a lot of the followers because people want to see themselves out there. They don't want to just see this perfectly curated image of someone. So I think Mallory made some good points. Go listen to this episode. It seems like diet culture. She kind of calls out a lot of the different behaviors happening out in society. She watches a lot of the media. And she definitely, as a registered dietitian, as someone that has struggled with her own self-esteem, body image. I mean, again, she went to ASU. ASU is filled with, standards that are impossible to meet. And she has been someone, if you, again, listen to her podcast for a while, that was a tortured soul trying to fit herself into this extreme body image and beauty standard, and she suffered for that. So now she's found a much happier place through self-acceptance, and she wants to teach other people that. And I like to dissect it all, so that's what we do on this show. If there are any other shows you think I should listen to, please feel free to DM me or email me at the Diet Obsessed Podcast is a good way to reach me. Just feel free to send a direct DM to me there. I do have one I need to listen to that one of my other listeners sent me. I still need to catch up on that. But please consider subscribing to this show. You can subscribe through Apple Podcasts. And subscribing, if you're on YouTube, is completely free. Just push that subscribe button. If you want the 2 additional episodes per month, you can go to Patreon to find my VIP shows, and you can get the subscriber episodes, the 1 additional extra month, anywhere you listen to podcasts. There should be that subscribe button. That'll get you 1 to 2 more episodes per month. And until we meet again, I hope all of you have a very balanced week.